So what I'd like to begin with now in this portion of the class session is go back and review these definitions I provided for you of a block and a W block because we're going to look at a different type of concept, but very much related to blocks and W blocks. And this concept is called external references. I need to give you a definition so that we can proceed. So we had the block, which my definition I provided for you is a drawing within a drawing file. And I think after making your blocks, you understand that concept a whole lot better. And then a W block is nothing more than a drawing file, anything with a .dwg extension. And then the next concept related to these is called external reference. And an external reference, also known as, and I'm going to put this in parentheses, as an XREF. So when we use external reference, singular, it's XREF. When I use plural external references, then this becomes XReference. Let me expand that here. So what is an external reference? I'll give you my definition, and then I'm going to show it to you in practice here when I switch over to AutoCAD. So here's how I think of it. An external reference is the image of a drawing file within a drawing file. That's it. So if you think about that, and I use this as an example to help you kind of understand the concept. We carry photos of loved ones, and it could be family members, friends, and it could be our pets. We carry a photo, typically on our phone. That photo represents the loved one. It's not the actual person or pet. It is the image of them. And we don't take just one photo and leave it at that. We take many photos over the course of, a year, a month, depends. So every time we see them, sometimes, let's take a new photo. Let's see what changes have happened. Sometimes you have newborns and you just take photos of them every day, every week. So I think of an external reference as that image. And it will update whenever you open up the drawing file that it resides in. So if you just keep this concept in place, you'll be okay. And then I'll also point out how these external references, AutoCAD, when you highlight them and you look at the properties, it looks at them or it sees them as blocks. And it's fine um, because it makes sense and you'll see. Let me show you what these external references look like in practice. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to open up my site plan. So I'm going to go over here to my file open, and I'm looking for my X site, and I'll click open. Now, my building, my floor plan needs to be placed on this site. Now, typically we put a roof plan, but in our case, because you're learning concepts here, we're going to go ahead and put in the floor plan. But instead of bringing the floor plan in as a block, I'm going to bring it in as an external reference. That way, when my floor plan changes, it will update here in my site because it's going to be an external reference, meaning it's going to be an image. So it's always going to be looking for the latest version of that file, and it will bring in the image. So I want to make sure, first of all, that I am on layer 0 because when I use external references, they're a lot like blocks. They will be placed onto the current layer. So I'll make sure that my layer is set to 0. Next, I will type in XR, and that's the keyboard shortcut for XREF, external references. Enter. When I do that, it opens up this window, my external references. And I'm going to expand this a bit. There we go. And it's basically telling me I am in this file, this Xsite file. And then I'm going to come up here to the icon where it says attach DWG. I'm going to click on the drop down because I want you to see that I can attach a drawing. I can attach an image like a PNG or JPEG. I can attach a PDF. But right now we're going to stick with DWGs. So I'll click on attach DWG. And then I will go into my folder and I will look for my floor plan. And when I look for my floor plan, because I plan this in advance, I know that it starts with an X. So it's placing all of these files that I will eventually be externally referencing together. And this is why I asked you to put an X in front of it so that we could identify it. So I'll pick X plan. Hopefully now it starts to make sense. We're calling it an X plan because we are going to XREF it in. So I highlight that and I click open. And then it gives me a similar dialog box as a block. It's asking me scale 1:1. Yes, because that's how we've been doing everything. Insertion point. Here, notice how it says specify on screen. Yes, that's what I want to do. Now, over on the left-hand side here where it says reference type, it's going to bring it in as an attachment versus an overlay. And I'll show you the difference later. For now, bring it in as an attachment. Then, over to the path type. Because the files reside in the same folder, we do not need a path. So I turn off, or I say no path. For the rotation, it's going to be at 0, so I don't need to change any of that. And then my units are inches. So now I'll go ahead and click OK. But I'm going to pause there for a second so you can take a look and make sure yours is showing the same information. All right, I'll go ahead and click OK now. And when I do that, notice it is allowing me to place my plan anywhere. And here, I'll just drop it in up here for now, just to get it into my drawing. So I'll click. As soon as I do that, notice how it's faded. And if I click on it, everything highlights. And then up here in my ribbon, it tells me it's an external reference and I have some options. If I go over to my properties, it tells me it's an external reference. Good. So I have that highlighted. And then I'm going to move away from that. And now I'm going to come over to my external references. And I always like to view this, the file references. I like to come over here to this icon where it says tree view. And I click on that. Because what this shows me is the floor, or I'm sorry, not the floor. The site is the drawing file. And then inside of that drawing file is the image of my floor plan. It's nested in there. That's how I read this. If I just have it showing in list view, I don't get that same visual guide. So I like this. I prefer it. Okay, so that's number one. I'll go ahead and tap the escape key and it's no longer highlighted. Now, I grew up using external references and it didn't dim the XREF. So this throws me off a little bit and I just want to show you how you can change that. First of all, let me take my external references and dock it over to the right. And then I'm going to type options. Options and enter. And under options, I want to go to the display tab. And under display, you'll see over here, fade control, XREF display. If I just hover there for a moment, is it going to give me the help file? No. If I click in here, there it is. Okay, pause for a moment. It says it controls the dimming for all drawing XREF objects. And if I wanted to, I can type in XDWG fade control, CTL, into the command line. But I want to change this display and I don't want it to fade at all. And I forget which way I need to go. and I think I throttle it this way. That's a full fade. I don't want that. I'm going to set this to 0. And instead of trying to use the slider bar, I'll just type 0 here. And then I'll go ahead and apply, see if that does it. And then okay this. There we go. So that did it. So now it's appearing just as bright as my drawing file. You don't have to change that. I'm just showing you what you can do. So when I hover over it and then I click on it, it all highlights, tap off of it or hit the escape key. It's exactly the way I want to see it on screen. So now I'll go ahead and move it into place. And just like we did with the SketchUp model, I'll do the same thing here. Only in this case, sometimes what I'd like to do is draw some guidelines, but we'll do it the same way we did the other one. So I'm just going to type M, enter. I'll select my object, I'll enter, and I'll take it from this endpoint, and I'm just simply going to put it right here. And then I believe I set it back 20 feet. So I'm going to type M again, enter, select my object, enter, and move it back 20 feet. And then I'm going to bring it down so that it lines up with my property line. So I'm going to type M again. Actually, no, I'm going to enter because that was the last command, so it remembered it. Select the objects. I'll pick the XREF, enter. And I'll pick it from here straight down to line up right there. And I don't recall exactly where I placed it. I believe I moved it maybe 5 feet away from the edge. I need to go back and double check SketchUp, but for now, I'll just move it in or down 5 feet. So I'm going to type M, enter, select it, enter, and just click out here and move it down 5 feet and enter. So that's where I'd like to put my building. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to come back to your site and actually edit the line work to show the sidewalk that's going to lead up to that entrance. So here, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to turn off my property line and then I'll enter. And then right here, because that's where I want my building, I'm going to draw a line, but hang on a second. I'm going to click on make current. I'll make this layer current. That's my A site. And then I'll type L, enter. I'll draw a line from here straight down. And I'm going to use shift right click and go perpendicular. Enter. And then I'll draw another line. Enter. From here, straight down, shift right click, perpendicular, right there. And enter. And then I'll type TR, enter, and trim this. Enter, and show that the sidewalk leads me right up to my front entry. And then I can do the same thing back here, depending on what I choose to do. Do I want a sidewalk that takes me all the way to my porch, takes me up the steps? This is all up to you. But you will need to update that site. And then I'll come back over here, click on this icon that says turn all layers on. Done. And we're all set there. Now watch this. I'm going to edit my building. And what I can do is I can come right up here to File Open. I can go into my X Plan, click Open, make some changes if I want. And I'm trying to think. Here, let's assume that I would like to put a window right over here. So I'm going to draw a line from here over this way. I'm going to offset that line, let's say 2 feet from the wall on the inside. And then I'll offset that line. And let's say I want to put in a 4-foot window opening. That might not be a great spot for it because maybe that's where I want the bed. So let me rethink this for a moment. Actually, no, let me keep going. It's fine for now. I'll erase that line. I will type MA to match properties of this line to those two that I just dropped in. Enter. Zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to type TR, enter, and then click and drag my mouse like this and release. And it trims that out. Okay. Zoom extents and then close the plan. Save the changes. Yes. As soon as I do that, I come back over here and look in the bottom right corner. It says an external reference was modified. Reload that plan. And then there's a check mark here where it says compare the changes. Now, I don't want to compare them because I know what this looks like. But let me show you what that does. I'll click on the link to reload it. And when I do that, I get this blue highlight around my drawing area. And it's showing me what changes I made. And I can see that it happened right in here. And then it says XREF compare. And you have some options here on off, toggles the comparison display. But I already saw that. So I can go ahead and just close this out. And then it takes me out. And then I can go ahead and continue editing my site plan. So that's one way to do it. The other way, which I find to be quicker, is this. Select the XREF. Right click the XREF. And just go straight to Open XREF, like this. And when you open it, it takes you right to that drawing file. And then I'll just come over here. I am on the A plan layer. I'll draw a line here. Let's see, I will offset. Actually, no, line. I'll draw a line from here to there. Spacebar again. Line from here to there. Spacebar terminates it. Oh, wait, it dropped an extra line in here. I did not want that. Let me delete that. Okay. So now I'm going to offset 2 inches, this line, and then this one. Enter. And then a line from the midpoint to the midpoint. And then MA to match properties of this line to that one and that one. And enter. And then zoom extents again. And now close it. Save the changes. Yes. And again, that message notification shows up. Now, if you accidentally click on the X or you forget to do anything and it disappears, no problem. Here's what you do. You go back to that external reference window, and then you'll notice there is an icon, and this is a small icon showing you that it needs to be reloaded. So all you have to do is right click it and reload. And once I reload, here, the reference drawing has recently changed. Do you want to compare the differences? No, because I know what I did. So I click no, and there's the update. So this is what I mean about the external reference being nothing more than the image of that other drawing file. So that's very helpful. That's the concept of external references, and it's a very powerful one, and it's really neat. And when we put drawings together in AutoCAD, we use and rely heavily on external references. All right, one other thing I wanted to show you here, and that is I'll go back to my external references because I have a couple of options. I'm going to right click. And when I right click, I showed you that I can reload. I also have the option of unloading. And when I unload, I'm going to click on that now. Notice how it basically removes the image. But in truth, it's just unloading it, because if I go back to my external references, you'll see that it still is referenced and it still knows where to find it. So I can right click this and reload it. Brings it right back. If you don't want this external reference in your file anymore, then you right click and you basically detach it. And when you detach, notice how all the details disappear, because it's as if you had never attached it in the first place. We don't do that too often, but I like that option. And let me undo to bring it all back. There we go. Go back to my external references. It's listed right there. Right click. And then a couple of other quick options. Actually, just one more. This one under bind. We don't use that often, but if I click on it, it says bind, and it says I can actually bind this external reference, and I'll bind it as what we refer to as an insert. If I did that, it basically brings it in and makes it a block in my drawing file. I don't want to do that because I'm going to continue to update my floor plan, and I want those updates to appear here. So I just wanted to show that to you. I'm going to cancel out. And then I'll say this, and I need you to just make a really strong mental note of it. You never, ever delete an external reference because that creates problems in your drawing file. If you don't want to see it there anymore, make sure that you select it and then you come over to your external references, you right click it, and you detach it. You just remove it altogether. All right. The other thing I wanted to show you here with the XREFs is under my layer properties manager, you'll see that it has also brought in the image of the layers. Let me move this. Actually, no, let me do this. I'll shrink this a little bit like that. And then I'll bring this over here and then I'll go back to layer properties. Okay. So you can see I have my plan layer and my wall layer, and it's divided, and it tells me it's coming in from that external reference. I can take the layers and I can turn them off right here. I can also change the color of the externally referenced layers. Not that I want to do that right now, but it's nice to have that option. So if I wanted to change it, and I'm changing it because maybe I want it to print lighter, I can certainly do that here. So I have a bit of control there. I can lock the layers down, but it doesn't matter because I really can't edit here, but it's just nice to have that feature. Okay. And then the last thing I want to share with you is this, because this can be just a little tricky sometimes. There are filters. And right now the filters are showing me all of the layers that are part of this drawing file, including layers that are externally referenced. But if I wanted, I can click on or expand this XREF. And under XREF, if I click on that, now it's filtering and showing me just the XREF layers. It's hiding the other ones from view. So be careful with the filters here. And then if I want to, and sometimes I'll do this, I'll have it just show me all of my non-XREF layers. In other words, just the layers that are part of this file that were not brought in from the external reference. And that's sometimes is easier to work with. But most of the time, I'll just leave it on all and know that you have the filters available to you over on this side. Okay, just wanted to point that out to you on the layers. Let me pause and see if there's any questions. And resume. All right, so really, really nice feature. And by the way, I can take this external reference, I can rotate it, I can mirror it, I can even make copies of it. But I don't need to right now. Just wanted to let you know it's you're treating it like any other object in a drawing file. All right, so now I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to leave this site plan alone. I'm going to type Z enter, E enter, and then I'm going to close it. And now I will show you what the next drawing file will be. So I'm going to save changes, and then I'm going to expand or show you the PDF that is on Brightspace. So you are going to begin the elevation. The X here stands for external referenced elevation. We're going to use this as an XREF later on. So you're basically going to start your elevation and you're going to externally reference your site so that you can then use all of that information to project some line work. And the layers here are different. So in the floor plan, when we used layers, let me zoom in, we were basically organizing it based on categories: walls, furniture, fixtures, doors and windows. But here, when we go with elevations, it's different. We're basically using the layers to identify what we want to appear heavy in our drawing. And these are objects that are mostly that are in the foreground. So when something is close to you, we want it to have a heavy line weight. Medium, that's somewhere in the midground. Light, those are objects that are going to appear in the background. They need to appear light. And then there's another layer here, and I call this one beyond, and I make that one blue, and these are objects that I need to just appear beyond view, not as important or not as prominent as layers that are light, medium, or heavy. And this is where I'm going to be putting my entourage, trees, because I do want it to be part of the elevation, but I don't want it to take away from the building itself. And then as it states, we'll add more layers later. And with any AutoCAD drawing, add layers, delete layers, rename layers, whatever you have to do. And eventually you establish what you feel, what you believe to be like norms and standards that will work for you in the future. All right. What else do I have here? Make sure to place external references on layer 0, correct. And then guidelines, I'll show you what guidelines look like, what they are. You can put those on 0 or you can construct a temporary layer. All right, and this is going to have a file name, first initial, last name, XELEVATION. Ignore what it says here about the pavilion. We're just going to be working with the site, and that has all the information we need now. So I'm going to minimize this. And then I will go ahead and start a new drawing. And now it's showing me my template. That's nice. So I'll pick it. Turning off my grid. Setting my units, or formatting my units, that is. Setting these to architectural. Precision here, 0.00. I'll click OK. And then save as. And I will save this as first initial, last name, XELEVATION. But watch me, since I already have a name up here that starts the way I need it to, I'm going to click on that. And I'll just come back here and then just backspace. I went too far. But it saved me from having to type my own last name, Elevation. Okay. XELEVATION it is. And save. Don't worry about the preview. It's not going to affect it. I'll click save. All right. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And for the elevations, you need a strong ground line. But before I start putting all of that in there, actually, no, let me put the ground line in. I'll start at L, enter at 0, 0. I'll just take it straight across. I'll turn on ortho. And I know my building, actually my whole property, it's about 100 and some feet long. Top of my head, I can't quite remember, but 125 is coming to mind. So I'll type in 125 feet and enter again. And then I will zoom extents, zoom out. So this is the length of my property. I think that's what it is. I'll double check in a second. But this is going to be the ground line, and my elevation is going to be coming up off of that ground line. Now, I could draw everything from scratch, but I already have a floor plan. I already have a site plan. Why not borrow that information and use it to generate my elevation? So we are going to externally reference the site. So I'll come over here to my external references, click on the dropdown, and I will attach a DWG. And I'm going to attach the site. And then I will click open. This also is coming in as an attachment. That's fine. My scale 1:1 works. I do want to specify on screen. I'll change the path. Set that to no path. I don't need a rotation. And then I'll go ahead and click OK. And there's my site. And I am simply going to line up my site along 0, 0 here. I'll track that straight up. And then I'll give it a click. All right. Zooming out, I don't really need to see the entire site. So this is the nice thing about external references. Another nice thing is that I can select the external reference, and then up here in my ribbon, I can create what's called a clipping boundary. So I'm going to click on that, clip boundary. It says, what kind of a boundary do you want? Yes, rectangular. That's where the bullet point is. And then it says specify the first corner. So you're going to crop this or clip it. And I am just going to draw a rectangle and I can modify it in just a moment. So first corner goes here, just one click. Second corner goes here, one click. And what it's done is it's basically cropping out the information that I don't need to see. And now what I can do is I can zoom in here and I can take this corner and just bring it in. And I'll bring it in right about there. It's going to crop the trees, and that's all right. Over here, go ahead and click on it, bring it in a little bit. And then this, I'll just bring it down a little bit. Well, it's a lot of it. I'll put it right there and then tap the escape key. So I basically have cropped it down to just the information that I would like to see. But I have this box around it, and that is what they refer to as a frame. I don't want to see that frame. So you can type the following at the command line. It's called the X clip frame. There it is. I'll just go ahead and type it all and enter. Set this to 0. Excuse me. That basically turns it off. So I'll type in 0 and enter. Done. Now, in case you don't know what those numbers mean, real quick, I'll come up here to my search, and I'm just going to type in X clip frame and enter. And it takes me right into the help file, which is great. This is a system variable. Click on it, and then it shows me right here. A 0 means that the frame is not visible. It's not plotted. And then it temporarily reappears when I select during selection preview or when doing an object selection. The 1, it says the clip XREF frame is displayed and plotted. Number 2, it's displayed, but it's not plotted. So you pick whichever option you want. Leave it at 2. It doesn't matter for what we're going to do here. I just wanted to show you what those numbers meant. All right, now I'll continue. And now I will go over to my Layer Properties Manager and start adding the layers. So I forgot, and I'm going to just expand this, put it over here on the side. So I'm going to start with my layers. And notice, I forgot to mention this earlier, I put numbers in front because O1 heavy, that's an important layer. And I have a hierarchy here. So heavy is the information that's in the foreground. And then we go O2 medium, which is the midground, and then O3 light, which is the background. O4 is beyond. So I'm using that to keep this in alphanumeric order because without the numbers, it's only going to put it in alphabetical order and it's going to throw me off. So that's the reason for that. So O1 heavy magenta. So I'll come over here to my layers. I'll click on it. And this is going to be O1, 01. And then you can go upper or lowercase. And I have my caps lock on. I want to turn it off. And I want to spell this right. And then, no, what am I doing? Okay. No, oh my goodness, I cannot type. All right. And then that color was going to be magenta. And magenta is color number 6. Click OK. Next one was going to be O2 medium, and that's going to be red. So I'll go back to my layer properties. This is going to be O2 medium. And then the color on that will be red. Next up, O3 light, yellow. 1 second. Let me tap the escape key. All right. O3 light. And that one, I believe I said was blue. Let me double check. No. O3 light is yellow. Okay, so I'll just come over here and change it to yellow. And then one more for now. That's going to be O4 beyond, and that one will be blue. O4 beyond. And that one is blue. And then I'll click off of that. If I look at my layer drop-down list, you can see it's showing me the XREF layers. So that's nice to see. Oh, and then here, one other thing. Under external reference, look at that tree view. See, this is what I like about the tree view. If I just have it in list view, it just lists everything. But, and this is fine, but when I go to tree view, it basically tells me I am in my elevation drawing. I have externally referenced my site plan, and my site plan is externally referencing the plan. And then what's really neat about this is I can take that plan, right click it, and unload it temporarily, and it'll show me just the site. So that's nice. I'll go ahead and reload it here. Okay. And then I'm ready to continue. Now to begin, information that is closest to us, meaning in the foreground, that's what we want to see with that heavy line weight. So if I look at my elevation here, this wall is going to be the heaviest. So I'm going to start to draw that in. So I'm going to change to that O1 heavy. Now, there's no right or wrong way to do this. The approach that I have might be different than the approach that you are considering. Whatever works best for you, it's going to be fine. So what I'm going to do is O1 heavy. I'm going to project the line down. So I'm going to type L, enter, and just take it from this corner and just go straight down. And here's where I do turn on perpendicular. One of the few times that I will turn off, maybe, no, I'll leave that on. I'll just go and turn on perpendicular. Hope it works. Sometimes it snaps to endpoints and midpoints, but that's all right. I'll be mindful of that. So I take it perpendicular there, spacebar, and then I'll come over here and I should zoom in a little bit more and I'll type L, enter from this point straight down, perpendicular right there, and enter. Now, my building is 1 foot 6 inches above ground. I can take this line, and by the way, because this line also is in the foreground, I want this one to be heavy. Here's what I can do. Select it, put it on that layer. But if I really, really want it to be heavy, combining what we discussed in the last class about polylines and giving them a global thickness, I'm going to do that right now to this one. So I'm going to type PE, enter. Going to select the line, enter. And right away it converts it to 1 because I know that because it's giving me the options, and I'll type in width. In this case, the width, I can't go with a 16th or 32nd. I'm working actual size here. So I need to change that width to maybe 6 inches. So I'll type in 6 inches and enter. And that gives me a nice, bold, heavy base. You'll see what this does when it comes time to print. And I'll go ahead and simply enter. All right. Next, my building height. I know that I decided to make my building 9 feet. But before I do that, I know that it's also raised 1 foot 6 inches because each one of these steps is a 6-inch step. So I need to elevate, or I need to put in that foundation. And that foundation pretty much is in the foreground right here. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to offset 1 foot 6 inches, enter. I'll select this polyline and I will offset it up and enter. But I don't need it to be that thick. So I'm going to explode it. So I'll type X, enter, select it, and enter, and be done. And by the way, zooming in here real close, I do have to point out this polyline is 6 inches, but it's split down the middle. So it's 3 inches up, 3 inches down. It's okay to do that. But if you want to get real technical, you can always move it down 3 inches to make up for that difference. It's a little technicality, but I'll just leave it alone for now and continue. All right. Now I'm going to type TR, enter, and I'll trim it here and I'll trim it there. And now from this point, or using that line, I'm going to offset that up 9 feet. For your building, you might have it set to 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, 11. I'm not sure. So use what you have, and then you can also base it on the height you established using SketchUp. So it's highlighted. I'm going to type O, enter. I'd like to offset it 9 feet. So the distance is 9 feet, enter. And it's already taking me in that direction. So I click and enter. And then I remember that I gave myself a 12-inch trim fascia on the outside along the roof. So I'm going to offset this line 12 inches from here up like that. I'm getting there. And notice, I'm just kind of piecing it, taking small steps. I'm not trying to draw the entire elevation at once. I'm just, doing one thing at a time, and it works out. All right. On that handout that I gave you, it states that you can add guidelines and you can create a temporary layer or just simply use layer 0. Let me show you what I've done in the past. I'll come over here to my layer properties manager and I'll go ahead and add a layer, and I'll refer to this one as my guides. So I'll just type in and enter. And then let me see if I can change the order of the names. If I click here and then click again, yes. So notice numbers first, followed by letters. So guides it is. I'll change that layer color, and I want this to come in very light. So I'm going to pick one of these gray colors, either 8 or 9, doesn't matter which one. I'll go with 9, and then click OK, and I'll make that my current layer. Click over here. Now, I can put in what are called construction lines. Over under draw, if I click on the drop down, here is the construction line, and the keyboard shortcut is X line. And it's basically just lines, like it says, that helps me to construct my model. So I'm not going to click there. I'm simply going to type in XL for my X line and enter. And then it gives me some options at the command line. And yes, I do want the line to go vertical. So I'm going to type V, enter. And then here we go. It says, where do you want to put it? Okay, I want it right here, just to line that up. And if I had wanted to, I can place it there, and I can place it here, and then enter. But I always make sure to select the lines, these construction lines, select them, and then right-click them, and then draw order, send to back. Because I don't want to see them in the foreground here. I want to see them behind my major lines. Okay, to continue, I need to put in the stairs. I need to put in this door opening, but I know that that wall is set back. It's in the mid ground, if you will. So I'm going to change my layers over here, and I'm going to select number 2, medium. So heavy, really close. The medium starts to move back. So I'll click on medium. And now that I have my guideline, look at this. All I have to do is type L, enter. From here, just take it straight up. And I'll tell you what, I will track this endpoint over, and then click. And then enter. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here, type L, enter. From here, over, perpendicular, yes. This is where my landing is. And remember, each step is a 6-inch increment. So I'm going to type O, enter, 6, enter. And I'm just simply going to offset this down 6 inches, and then this one down 6 inches. And now notice it looks like it's really close to the ground there. Let me do this. Let me take that line or that polyline, select it, and go to properties. And just for now, while I'm working on this, that global width instead of 6 inches, I'm just going to make it 1 for now. And then escape and leave that. When it comes time to print, I'll take a look at it. Set it back to 6, or maybe 6 was too much. We'll see. So now you can tell that I have my steps going up. But the steps don't need to come in as heavy as my wall. Maybe I'll address that later. Let me leave it alone for now. All right. So next thing I want to do is basically get that door in there. So watch. Here's where I go back. Let me change my layer to my guides. And then I'll type in XL for the X line. Enter. V for vertical. Enter. And I'm just going to click. Let me zoom in. Click here, here, there, and there. Enter. And then I'm going to take those 4 lines, select them, right-click them, change the draw order so they are sent to the back. All right. Zoom in here. And I'm noticing that I don't really need to see that entire site just yet. I do need it for reference. So I'm going to come up here to my layers, and that landscape, I can turn it off. It's getting in the way. I can turn off the site. Property line, maybe, sure. And then I can continue. So I'll get that door in place. Now the door, yes, it is set back. But here's what we like to do in architecture. First of all, I'll go back to this medium line weight. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to light. So when I set this to light, it's going to print, or I'm going to set it to print lighter. So that's a door frame. I don't need it to be so strong because I'm already showing the walls to represent that midground and that foreground. So I'll go ahead and draw the door. And I know that my door height is 6'8", plus 2 inches is 6'10". So I'll do this. I'll draw a line, enter, from this point here, because that's where it starts, up. I'll take this up 6 feet, 10 inches, enter. Take it across, let it snap to the perpendicular, and then bring it down like this, and enter. And I'm just now realizing I probably could have drawn this as a polyline, but I didn't, and that's okay because I can always type J, enter, and I'll join these 3 lines, enter. And then I can offset O, enter, and I'll offset 2 inches. 2, enter, selecting this line, offset it to the inside, and enter. So there's my door opening. And let me turn off the guides for a moment. This is what it's looking like right now. And I know, having done this before, that I don't want both of the lines to have the same line weight. So I'm going to take this one, select it, and I'm going to move that over to this one called Beyond. Now, it's not Beyond, but I'm taking advantage of the fact that it's meant to print lighter. So if you can visualize this for a moment, the red line is going to print relatively heavy. The yellow, medium. The blue, light. In that, well, to be honest, right? Number 2 is medium, number 3 is light, number 4 is Beyond. But I hope you understand. I'm just trying to set this up so when I go to print it, it has a good visual look to it. And then the last thing I'll do, and this is something that I just am pointing out because I want you to be aware of it, is I'm going to put in 2 lines on a diagonal. And I'll draw it first so you can see this. I'll draw a line. Actually, no, it's going to be a P line. So I'm going to type P, L, enter. And I'll do a polyline from this endpoint over to the midpoint, over to the endpoint, and enter. Now, I drew it this way because when you look at the door, here's what I'm pointing out, or here's how we do this in plan and elevation. In plan view, my door is swinging open. It is hinged on the left side, and that's what I want to denote in my elevation. Hinge on the left. So when I look at my elevation, what I'm showing here is hinge on the left. That's why those two lines are meeting right there at that midpoint. So we're basically letting everybody know that this is how it's going to open. It's going to swing. They don't know if it's going to swing in or out, but they do know that it's hinged on this side. And then what we do is we turn this into a dashed line. So I'm going to go over to my lines. I'm going to look at my line types. I don't have a dashed line, so I'm going to click on Other. I'm going to click on Load, looking for dashed or hidden, whatever you'd like. So I'll click or I'll find it. There's dashed. I'll select it, click OK. I've added that to my line type manager, click OK. And now I can click the line and I'll come over to layer, or I'm sorry, to the properties manager. And I want that line type to be dashed. And I want to change that line type scale. And like I said, I start with 12, enter. And 12 actually might work here. So I think I'll leave it at 12. Tap the escape key. Now, I left it on this layer on purpose so that you could all see the line, but now it's time to put it on the appropriate layer. So I'm going to select it and just move it over here to this beyond because I need that to come in nice and light. And I know you're starting to have trouble seeing this blue line. So here's one thing I'd like to do for all of you. I'll go into my options. Under options, I go into my colors. In my colors, it tells me that I can change my background color. So I'm in my 2D model space. Currently, uniform background is highlighted. And instead of having this color assigned to it, I'm going to select a different color. And I'm going to come over here to my index colors instead of true colors. And from here, I think I'll select this dark gray. Click OK. Apply that. And then click OK there. Now it's easier to see because I've lined up my background. All right. And I'll zoom out, but now all of a sudden that pink has gotten just a little bit more vibrant. But you can see that. Excuse me. You're able to see the pink, the red, the yellow, and the blue a lot better. All right. And I'll zoom out and up over here. Okay. So my roof, I know that when I put it on my SketchUp model, I actually had offset it, and it actually is just coming straight across here. And I think I offset it by a foot. Not sure, but I'm just going to show you that 1 foot offset. If it's more, I'll let you make changes to your elevation. So I don't need the lines here to be extending so far up. So I'm just going to take that, grip it, move it down here, tap the escape key. Do this a little different. I'll type TR, enter. I'll trim here and then I'll trim there. All right. Then let me zoom in over here. And yeah, I got to do one thing over on my end. Sorry, I need to look at my colors because that color number 8 might not be the best. So if I go color 9, let's see. That might be better for now. Okay. Here's what I'll do. I will draw a line and enter. And I'm just going to track this endpoint over and type in 1 foot, enter. And I'll take it straight up and then I can go perpendicular if it'll let me. No? Okay, so I'll just track it from here to there. Enter. Zoom in and then I'll type EX, enter, extend the 2 lines, enter, and I'm already seeing that it's not on the appropriate layer, so I'll type MA, enter, match the properties of this line to that one, and enter. So that's just giving me the trim around my building. And if I had a flat roof, I could leave it like that. But I'll show you how I'm going to put in that hip roof. All right. Over here, I'll do the same thing. And I like to zoom in so I can focus on just that area that I'm going to be editing. So I'll type L, enter. I'll pause right here and track over a total of 1 foot, enter, take it up. And the distance I want to take it up, I'll just track from this endpoint, bring it over, lock it in right there, and enter. And then I'll type EX, enter, extend these 2 lines. And then this one needs to go just a little bit more. Enter, match properties, MA, this line to that one. Enter. All right. If it's a flat roof, that works. But it's going to be a hip roof. So remember how I just kind of modeled it real quick and I told you that there was a thing called the rise and run? I'm going to leave that alone for now. And I believe my roof height, and I'm just throwing the numbers out because I cannot remember. I think I made that roof 6 feet high. So I'm going to type O, enter, and I'm going to type in 6 feet, enter. I'll take this roof up because I think that's what it was. And then I brought it back. I'm trying to think. I may have brought it back 6 feet also. So I'm going to take that, grip it, the line, click on this endpoint, bring it back 6 feet, enter. I'll take this line, move it in 6 feet, enter. And then I'll draw a line from this endpoint over here, spacebar, spacebar, and then a line over here to there. It doesn't look like it's matching my SketchUp model, and I'll check that model later. But for now, I'm just showing you how you would do it. And then I'll type MA to match the properties of this line, and I want to make it apply to both of these, and enter. That's the beginnings of my, I'm going to call this one my front elevation, if you want to call it that. Or, when we start annotating, we can maybe call it the east, west, north, south. We'll see. But it's the longer of the 2 elevations. And now let me go ahead and turn all of my layers back on so you can see. So that's me starting to generate that elevation. I still need some windows. I've got the door, but I'm on my way. And by the way, with these X lines in here, notice how they will extend infinitely, but sorry, my computer's hanging up. Just 1 second here. Let me tap the escape key. Oh boy, cannot continue. It's going to create a recover file. Oh boy, I don't like this, but I'm glad it's happening to me now so you can see what I'm going to do. Save changes. Yes, please. I don't know why it crashed. Go ahead and send the report and then close this out. All right. Not sure what happened there, but it'll happen to you too. Just go back into AutoCAD and let's see. Sometimes it will let you recover the file. Sometimes it saves it, no problem. But here's the message. In your previous session, it terminated unexpectedly. I close that out. And now I come over here to this drawing recovery manager. I expand that backup file or backup files. It shows me that it has this recovery file in there. It gives me a timestamp as to when it was last saved. I also have my drawing file, which is an earlier date, so that's not going to be current. And then I have this saved file, this SV $. This is the backup file while I'm in a session. If I click on that one, it says that one is from 8/19, and then it's showing me a bit of a preview down here. So that one is 8/19. This one is 8/29. That's the latest version. So this is the one that I'd like to open. So I will double click it. And it says it requires recovery. Yes, recover it. No errors were detected, thankfully. I click OK. And then I can go ahead and close this drawing recovery manager. And then notice how it says recover. It's added that as a suffix. So I'm going to type save as, and I want to save it as that original elevation. And then I click save. Prompts me, do you want to replace it? Yes, because it's a newer version. So I click yes, and then I can continue. All right. So what I was saying, the X lines will extend infinitely, but when I zoom extents, Z enter, E enter, it does not take them into consideration or into account. So that's a really nice feature. Okay, I'm checking time and I want to wrap this up and I can continue later, but if you have this elevation done and you want to start the next one, here's what you do. For now, copy, and you copy this external reference, enter, and you just basically copy it over here. Tap the space bar, sorry, the escape key, and then simply rotate. So RO, enter, this XREF, enter, and I'll just pick this as my base point. And I'd like to rotate it 90 degrees. Let me show you what it's doing. Let me turn ortho off. See how it's rotating it? So yes, 90 degrees. So I'm going to type in 90, enter. And then I'm going to type M, enter. P for previous selected objects. P, enter. No more objects to select, so I'll enter. And I'll move it from here on up, and I'll place it right about there. And then all I have to do is start projecting some lines across and then bring some lines straight down. So I can go ahead and here, and let me put myself onto the right layer, the guides, and type in X line. And I want a vertical X line. So I type V, enter. And I want that vertical line to cut through or to be coplanar with this line, with this one, that one, and that one. I'll take care of the stairs later. I don't think I want my, I don't want that many construction lines. So I'll tap the escape key, zoom out, and then I already have some layers over here. I have some lines. I can simply just copy some lines over like this, CP, enter, and I can copy basically all 4 of these, 5 actually. I just have to be careful not to pick my XREF. So I'm just going to click here, and this is a crossing window. Click again, and it did pick that XREF. So hang on a second. I don't want to pick the XREF, so I hold down the shift key and I deselect it. Then I enter, and I basically just want to click somewhere, well, let's say somewhere here, bring them over, straight across, turn ortho on, straight across. Be real careful not to snap to anything other than maybe perpendicular. So I'll click, but if you don't want to snap to anything, then shift right click, none, and now it doesn't matter. I'll click and then tap the escape key and continue with a minor change. This line is too long. I'll just bring that in a little bit over this way, like that. And then I can also take this one and bring it in a little bit. And then project lines, just like I did before. That window, just like I did the door, project it, bring it down. So that's the start of it. And I'll zoom extents. So in the next class session, we're going to continue with AutoCAD. You'll have your presentation board ready. You'll have your site ready. You'll have your floor plan ready. You'll have your elevations in progress. And I'm going to show you how we're going to bring all of this together to create our presentation files. So be ready for that at our next session. I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions. All right, so if there are no questions, make sure you control save. So control S, and then keep making progress. When you're all set, make sure you close the elevation file and then close out. And then if needed, as you start generating the elevations, you decide that you want to maybe put the windows in different locations. There's still time to do that. As long as all of your windows and door locations match on your AutoCAD drawing, you're going to be fine.